Hello everyone, I hope you're having a wonderful day today. My name is Mikey, and I wanted to make a quick video about how to get out of bronze in League of Legends. And I know there's a million videos on YouTube about how to climb in League of Legends from a lot of popular YouTubers. A lot of them are higher elo than me, but I wanted to make this for my viewers and to also write this stuff down to remind me what are the priorities in the game. So, like I said before in one of my older videos, the highest I ever got was Plat 2 25 LP in Season 6, and I took a long break after that, and I just got back into League, and obviously I still have a lot of the knowledge, and I placed Gold 4 and quickly climbed to Gold 1, and I'm in my promos to Plat right now. So I think I can confidently say that I'm a mid-platinum level top laner and mid laner. So I feel pretty confident being able to talk to bronze and silvers and potentially low golds about what their biggest problems are. This is not like an elitist thing. I just think that what we're going to go over today can help people that are in bronze, and a few of the misconceptions and some of the big things you need to focus on, and some of the easiest things that you can do to improve your gameplay. And if you're watching this, then odds are you're trying to get better. So I really think you'll want to pay attention to this. So for the first category I have in here is attitude. So this is the category that literally all elos struggle with. You are much more likely to win your games using the mute all function. And if you want to chat with your team, refrain from making any negative remarks. This is super hard, I understand. Like I say down here, this is my biggest problem. It's easy to kind of bandwagon when someone on the team is feeding really hard or someone is losing you the game single-handedly. Even, we've all been the one that has lost the game single-handedly, whether you want to admit it or not. But if you are a positive player, that is a huge bonus. So there are some support mains and very high challenger who are pretty positive guys. There was just a guy on the Korean server, I forget his name exactly, but he was a Tom Kench support main, and he got rank 1 with Tom Kench support. He has a pretty interesting style, a very aggressive style, but one thing he does is he never gives up, and he's always very praising of his teammates. He always says, hey, we can win, and that's one of the hardest things to do, but if you can have that mentality, it's a huge bonus climbing. Do not blame anyone but yourself. You are the reason you're not climbing. You need to accept that. This is the mentality you need to maintain while you're trying to climb. And you will have trash teammates, but your ranking is only indicative of how good of a player you are. There's no such thing as elo hell, and if you believe it exists, then you need to watch how quickly good players climb off fresh accounts. If you still don't believe this, then I have no faith that you will ever climb. This is one of the main areas that I can personally improve on, but it is literally free. You can change this right now for the positive. I put this first because it impacts all roles, and in my opinion has way more impact than most of us want to admit. So this is something I'm constantly having to work on. It's a really hard thing to do in a team game, but I think it's healthy for the community, and it's really healthy for your rank in MMR. So down here we have the laning section. I have jungling and grouping, splitting late game. So first we're going to cover laners, and the biggest problem I see is your setup is trash. So you have no idea which runes to run or the proper build path for the champions of your choice. You probably play way too many champions, and the goal to get out of this is you need to pick a couple of roles that you like. So your main queue and your secondary role, and you need to stick with them. You need to make a decision now. So if you're in bronze and you're still trying to figure it out, that's fine, but you need to find what you want to play. Like, what do you want to be? What's your identity? Do you want to be a top, a jungle, a mid, an AD carry, a support? Where is your play style? You need to find that if you're looking to climb. And you need to find a couple champs for those roles that are at least viable. They don't have to be meta. Like, you don't need to pick the god tier picks, but they need to be something viable. Don't be playing Garen jungle expecting it could work, but expecting to climb to ridiculous ratings. I one-tricked Mundo top, and you could argue if he was viable or not, but I knew how to play him correctly, and I made very sure that his win rate stayed somewhat in an acceptable range that I could play him. So, in the wise words of Nice, he's a streamer. Go check him out. He has a bunch of content. He does replay reviews, and he's really knowledgeable about the game. But he said in his latest stream, go to pro builds, look for Asians. And it's pretty funny, but he's actually pretty spot on with that statement. Get a couple roles, a couple champs, and run the right runes and build the right items. So you can go on pro builds, type in your champion, and you can see the pros, what they're playing, what runes they're using, what keystones they're using. You have no idea. Even a lot of people like me who are just came back don't know enough about runes. So we're always looking up what the pros are building. You don't argue with the pros. If the pros are experimenting, they're probably experimenting better than you are. You might think something is better, but you don't, especially if you're in bronze. So you do not know better than the pros ever. You also need to know the goal of your champion pool. So goes along with your setup. Are you supposed to be a split pusher? Are you a team fighter? Who do you target in team fights? Who do you protect? These are all very simple things to figure out, and they take a little bit of work. So, like, for example, if you're playing Jax, you're one of the king of split pushing. You need to be split pushing. You need to know that you need to prioritize your split pushing, and you need to learn how to split push properly. How many people do you see on the minimap? Split pushing is much harder, in my opinion, to learn correctly. Because if you screw up, you can lose the game really hard for your team. But if you pull it off correctly, you can carry very hard. So you have to know what your champion does. Are you a really good team fighter? Are you a split pusher? Are you a peeler? You need to know what your setup is. That goes back to this. You need to know the runes, the build path, what is viable. Don't be building random crap because you think it looks good or it works. So don't do that. Another big thing that I see in laning problems is your farm is crap. So I'm talking less than or equal to 60 to 70 CS at 10 minutes. Now, like I go in here, you need to be getting as many CS that you can possibly get in the laning phase while maintaining positive trades with your lane opponent. This takes focus. Even a lot of people in higher elos get lazy sometimes, and you kind of fall into a rut in the laning phase. You miss a couple minions, you let a few minions go. 13 minions is a kill in League of Legends. So if your laner is 26 minions ahead of you, he technically has 2 kills over you. Obviously, kills are more damaging because they get the gold and shove under your tower, and you're delayed and you don't get XP. So you need to understand that CS is huge. You need your experience and you need your CS. That's what you need. Levels mean so much, and farming goes with that. So you need to be getting your experience. You need to be in lane. If you're dead, you're not in lane and you're losing XP to the tower. You need experience and you need your CS. So it's okay to use a little bit of mana to last hit creeps when under tower. That's really important. You'll see a lot of high elo people, they'll time their minions right under power, knowing how much AD they have so they can last hit them. You can practice this, but you can also know based on which items and with practice how to do that. So farming is a huge metric for dictating which elo you are in. High-level pros and coaches will roast you about your CS numbers. I'm thinking LS here. He'll roast you about not having correct CS. And it's very important. Luckily, you are in bronze, and in my opinion, don't need to stress about perfect farm yet. You just need to get this to acceptable levels. So you need to be, if you can get to 70, 80 CS at 10 minutes right now in bronze to get out of bronze, I think that's acceptable. But if you are one of the people that are getting up to 90 CS at 10 minutes, that's very good. But you need to, obviously there's lanes where you are not allowed to touch minions, but odds are you scale better than that champion. You need to wait at your tower and let the wave push to you, and you need to get the minions that you can. Don't give free kills trying to desperately go for minions. But you farm like crap. You need to get better at farming. And you are confused on when you can kill, and you don't look at your mini map, so you get ganked for free. So a lot of people blame their junglers in low elo because they're getting ganked when they're not getting ganks themselves. And this is a problem of you controlling the wave. So if you're pushing all the time and you have no vision and they have a jungler that's very good at ganking, you're going to get ganked. It happens to all of us. We get camped. We all get camped, but that is not the jungler's fault. If you're getting camped, especially top lane, you need to accept that you need to play passive and hope your jungler is getting an advantage by either stealing their jungle or going to other lanes and helping them. You can't flame your jungler here. And you also don't want to all chat that you're tilted because they'll keep camping you. You need to just accept it. You need to get behind and do what you can. So when I say ganked for free, you need to understand that some junglers are better at ganking. Some junglers are going to gank you early. Some junglers aren't going to gank you until level 6. You will learn this with experience, but it is your fault when you get ganked. It is not your jungler's fault. It's your fault. You can't blame your jungler. I hate it when people blame their jungler for getting ganked. When I'm a top lane main, sometimes we get camped. Obviously the meta is more bot focused right now, But in top lane, sometimes you get camped, and sometimes you just got to deal with it and try to help your team as much as possible. If you flame your jungler and get upset and tilt your team, you're not helping your odds. So you need to understand the matchups in the lanes that you play. You need to know who is strong, when their power spikes are, and this is all done through study and practice. For example, Aurelia, when she hits Triforce, she's at her strongest. You also need to ward, but be aware of your minimap. You can get a minimap timer online that dings and lets you know when to check your minimap. You should be checking your minimap a lot. A lot of people in higher elos obsessively look at their minimap because a lot of times in low elo, junglers will just poke out into lanes for no reason, even if there's no gank. They'll show themselves. They'll run out bot lane if there's no gank, and they'll show themselves. And you know that you have a couple minutes or a minute until you have to start worrying about the jungle again, so you don't have to waste a ward. You can save your ward until he's topside again. Or if you're mid lane, you know where the jungler is. So it's very important. You need to get into the habit of looking at your minimap. If you know the jungle is bot side because you have vision from your jungler or support, ping it for your team. Let everyone know where the jungler is. Don't selfishly use it because your team isn't looking at the minimap. You're the only one looking at the minimap because you watch this guide. So ping it for your team. Let them know. You can even type it, but I don't think you should do that. Just spam ping. He's at his blue. Okay, so you know you have a little window of time when you can be freely aggressive top lane, for example. I wrote top lane just because I'm a top lane guy, and that's just what came out. So if you follow these three things, you are out of the laning phase. So you need to have the right setup, the right runes, right build path. You need to know what your role is, when you're strong, if you're in a good matchup, a bad matchup. You need to farm minions. You need to get your experience. You need to get your CS. That's huge. Level leads are ginormous in League of Legends. A level lead is almost more valuable in terms of power than a kill or a couple kills. It's huge. And you're confused about when you can be pushing, when you should back off, when you should give a few minions. This all comes with experience, but you can learn this through study and watching better players. So these are the biggest issues in my opinion. Okay, so I'm not a jungler, but I know the basics of what you should be focusing on in the jungle. Especially for extremely low elo. So what I'm going to say again here for number one is your setup is trash, just like up here. So like I said prior to this section for junglers, you need to know which champions are viable, know their builds, and know their runes, and what your goal is in the game. So like I'm going to give you an example. If you're Lee Sin, your obvious goal is to be aggressive early. You are not useful late game compared to a lot of other junglers. You need to stomp your lanes for them. You might get a little behind in farm, but if you stomp everybody's lane, then all your laners are ahead. It's a risk you take playing Lee Sin, but sometimes you can completely run over games. Okay? If you're an assassin that ganks early, like Kha'Zix at like level 6, or when he upgrades, excuse me. You need to know when your opportunity is to gank. Don't force ganks and let people know you're there. You need to know what your goal is in the game. For example, I'm going to give another one. If you're Nunu, your goal is to control your jungle and the enemy jungle. You're trying to put their enemy jungler back, not lanes. Your goal isn't to gank as hard as a Lee Sin would. So this comes down to this, balancing ganking and farming during the laning phase. You need to understand your ability as a jungler to gank when you are capable. You need to tailor the amount you gank and the amount you farm to your specific champion. For example, Lee ganks hard early, Rammus ganks hard early. Shyvana generally farms hard till 6. Some like Shaco invade the enemy jungler. You need to understand your champion. And like I said, you should only have a few champions, so this is not that hard. You can look it up. What is the goal of Nunu in a ranked game? Look it up. You will know how the best guys play. Okay, so begin to dabble in jungle matchups and learning how others will cheese you or steal your shit. This isn't as big in bronze. The likelihood of getting cheesed or outplayed and invaded is unlikely than in higher elos. You don't have to worry about this too much in bronze unless someone's smurfing. And in that case, he's going to run over you anyways. So you should still know of the certain champs that will innately have better objective control. Where does your enemy jungler generally like to start? Do they need to start their blue buff? That's huge. A lot of us don't know that stuff. But as a jungler, you don't have to worry about laning against someone. If you're a jungle main, you don't have to know your matchups against all the potential lane opponents. You just need to know how you fare against other junglers. So in number 4, you need to take the reins on objective control and shot calling and hitting smite. So you need to know when you can take Baron and Dragon and when you need to concede. Low elos love Dragon. They freak out about Dragon. They think it's the most important objective in the game. Don't force Dragons. That's my biggest piece of advice. And don't force Barons too early. If you win a fight at 20 minutes, odds are you're not taking Baron. You know, the Baron will always be there. And as long as you have the advantage in the game, and your goal is to slowly choke them out. The problem is people in low elo, it's like in boxing. They're throwing haymakers. They're trying to knock out the enemy team. They're stepping too far. And when you go for that big knockout punch, you're leaving yourself open to a lot of counter punches. And that's what happens in low elo. It's a big haymaker fest followed by counter punches. What you will notice in Challenger and Pro Play, they slowly squeeze the life out of the enemy team. They take tower, tower. They rotate together. Tower, tower after the laning phase. They get Dragon, tower, tower. Baron after a good team fight when it's secure. Sometimes you got to make risky decisions, but your job as the jungler is to know that. These people are focusing on their laning. Your job is to know this. And don't use smite willy-nilly around these times. So if Dragon's coming up, don't smite your wolves. Just don't. You don't get benefits from smiting things anymore like back in the day. So keep your smite up and learn what damage your smite does. Are you a higher level than the enemy jungler? Then you should win a 50-50 smite because your smite does more damage. So yeah, we covered laning, we covered attitude, and we covered jungling. Now, I want to talk a little bit about grouping and splitting in the late game, so after lane phase. So you need to learn the priority of objectives and when you are strong enough to take those objectives. This comes with practice, making a lot of mistakes and throwing games, and study. So Panzer Dragon has an amazing video on prioritization of objectives. I would give it a watch. It's a pretty old video, but it's very valuable. He's a challenger jungler, so he understands objective control. And you need to understand your role, like we talked about earlier. In the late game, are you a split pusher? Are you Jax? Are you Tryndamere? Are you a team fighter? Think MF. Think Victor. Things of that nature. Are you an engager? Are you a Scion? Or are you a Nautilus? Are the backline and hook somebody in? Are you a Blitzcrank? Are you a peeler? Are you an Alistar? An Alistar could be an engager. He can WQ onto a team with his combo, but if you have a Twitch AD carry or a very late game AD carry, as a support, your job is to keep that person safe. If a Rengar jumps on them and you don't do anything about it, that can be the end of the game. You need your AD carry. So if you can knock them away from your AD carry, that one ability or that one decision could change the whole game. It's huge. Are you a damage per second? Are you an AD carry? Then you need to understand your role and what you're supposed to do. You need to know your role in the game on at least a basic level. You need to know what you do. Don't just do stuff willy-nilly. And obviously obtain free level and bask in Elo heaven. So this is a very basic thing on how to get out of bronze. I might make more in the future about getting out of silver and then potentially getting out of gold. But I feel like because I'm not a super high elo player right now, that I can relate to you guys better and understand where your biggest mistakes are, whereas someone like LS will just roast you about how bad you are. And I understand if you're in bronze, yes, you are bad. You need to admit that. You're worse than the average player in bronze. The average player is silver 5 or 4. And then once you get up into high gold and plat and stuff, that's where you start getting into like the top 10% of players in ranked. But there's a big gap between bronze and gold and silver. You just focus on these things. Fix your attitude, fix your laning, fix your jungling. Learn how the game is supposed to be played. A lot of people just run around the map and they don't push their waves. They don't crash their waves. They don't get XP advantages. They get way behind in EXP. They don't hit their CS. So you end up being very leveled, under itemized, and you're just kind of coin flipping each game. You're just flipping a coin, hoping that you win a fight better than other people. If you know how to play the game properly, like a high platinum and diamond player can almost reach 100% win rate in low bronze and mid bronze and even high bronze. That's just how dominant you can be. You need to be the person that tells everybody what they need to be doing. You need to know when you can do objectives. So when people make the call, you either agree with them or you make the call and spam ping it and say, we're going here now. You need to take this by the reins to get out of bronze. There's no such thing as elo hell. And I really think even with these just basic guidelines that you can get out of bronze fairly easily. And if you do, let me know. Let me know if this helps you. It would mean so much to me to know that after typing this up, that one person that's struggling or new to the game uses this and reprioritizes their decision making and can get out of bronze into an elo that makes them happier. So that's all I'm going to say for now. I know this is cheeky doing the notepad thing. I know I look like a shin right now. But I'm telling you how to get better. I'm not complaining about the game. So I think just focus on this, and I really hope it helps you guys, all right? So have a great day, and I hope you have some luck getting out. Thanks.